In the shadowed valleys of human endurance, where the veil between necessity and abomination thins to transparency, there exists a quiet unraveling that no doctrine can mend. Consider the forsaken outpost of Eldridge Point, Alaska, in the merciless grip of 1953's endless night, a place where the aurora borealis mocks the frailty of those below, twisting light into accusations against the soul's hidden voids. Here, amid the perpetual freeze that claims more than flesh, a figure materialized from the glacial expanse, bearing the weight of unspoken pacts with oblivion. They named him Elias Crow, though no ledger of births or migrations bore witness to such a being prior to that January eclipse when the polar winds howled like forgotten confessions. What the inhabitants of Eldridge Point came to comprehend about this intruder, who whispered of submerged realms beneath the ice and wielded remedies that staunched the hemorrhaging despair of isolation fever, would erode the foundations of their perceived humanity, exposing the raw substrate where survival devours ethics without remorse. For generations afterward, the archives of the Territorial Historical Commission concealed certain testimonies, etched not merely with the facts of Elias Crow's identity, but with the profane rites he enacted to persist in those crystalline depths, and more insidiously, the rituals he perpetuated long beyond his supposed salvation. The essence of Elias Crow transcends mere tales of endurance twisted awry. It embodies the inexorable plunge a soul undertakes when societal scaffolds dissolve, and how predators cloak themselves in the guise of guides, insidiously reshaping collectives into adherents of a desolate creed where existence justifies every profanation. Eldridge Point in 1953 was a bastion of human stubbornness, a cluster of corrugated barracks and supplied depots huddled against the Beaufort Sea's frozen maw, home to scarcely 200 souls, trappers, prospectors, and their kin, eking sustenance from a land that offered only ice and echoes. Founded in 1927 by veterans of the Great War, chasing rumors of untapped oil veins, it had devolved by mid-century into a spectral enclave, severed from the mainland by months of unyielding blizzards that rendered radio signals as futile as prayers. That year's polar vortex was a cataclysm of indifference, with mercury plunging to depths that shattered thermometers and froze diesel fuel in tanks left unguarded. The sea ice thickened to 8 feet by December, isolating the outpost from resupply ships that dared not challenge the pack's dominion. Even the most seasoned Inuit descendants, like Alan Nakasuk, who had navigated winter's echoing ancestral lore, murmured of this season as a judgment from the depths, where spirits of the starved wandered in perpetual hunger. The outpost's core pulsed along Frontier Lane, a wind-scoured path lined with the utilitarian bulk of Harlan Supply Depot, a squat structure of riveted metal that doubled as communal nerve center, where rations were doled and rumors fermented. Harlan Voss, a calculating quartermaster relocated from Seattle in 1948 after wartime profiteering scandals, maintained exhaustive inventories of every grain and grievance exchanged within its walls. His manifest would eventually serve as damning chronicles of Elias Crow's insidious permeation through the outpost's veins. At the lane's terminus loomed the Aurora Lodge, overseen by the widower Lena Voss, Harlan's estranged sister, whose spouse had vanished in a crevasse 3 seasons prior. The lodge provided bunks for transient drillers caught by storms, while functioning as the outpost's dim social hearth, where inhabitants convened over synthetic spirits and dog-eared cards to barter fragments of the outside world's fading relevance. The weathered chapel, presided over by Father Elias Thorne, no relation to the intruder, though the coincidence gnawed at minds, a dour Presbyterian cleric schooled at Princeton, anchored the central square. Thorne had ventured to Eldridge Point in 1950, harboring visions of forging spiritual resilience amid the void. Yet by 1953, his flock grappled with erosions of belief that plunged deeper than frontier adversities, as the isolations crushed tested convictions in cosmic benevolence. Dwellings were Spartan, insulated shacks warmed by kerosene stoves, stocked with canned provisions hoarded from summer barges. Affluent figures like Victor and Mira Kovalenko, proprietors of the largest trapping line, employing local hands seasonally, resided in reinforced cabins with subterranean larders for cured pelts and preserves. The Kovalenkos nurtured 2 offspring, Ivan, aged 14, already versed in snare setting, and young Nadia, 7, whose innocent queries about the star's silence pierced parental hearts. By mid-January, Eldridge Point teetered beyond routine tribulations. The toll of cold and contagion had reaped 7 lives. Elder Nakasuk succumbed to hypothermia in his outpost, his tales of shape-shifting hunger silenced forever. A prospector's infant perished from scurvy despite frantic interventions. Supply scarcities loomed largest. Last shipments docked in October, with no thaw anticipated until May. Medic Harlan's meager pharmacopoeia dwindled. Aspirin vials emptied, antibiotics rationed, instruments corroded by saline air, fueling dread of inevitable amputations or worse. Whispers circulated of the winter's malediction, enveloping the outpost like an entombing fog, prompting elders to contemplate mass exodus come melt, if any endured to witness it. Into this abyss of desolation, Elias Crow descended from the ice fields, proffering insights and provisions that defied plausibility, and as revelations unfolded, so did their cost. January 23, 1953. Etched into collective psyche via medic logs and private scrawls from 8 survivors who chronicled the encroaching anomaly. Adolescent Ivan Kovalenko first glimpsed the silhouette against the auroral haze, patrolling perimeter fences for wolf incursions when he beheld what resembled a revenant forged from frost. Ivan's initial dismissal as optical deceit yielded to recognition of deliberate gait, tracing a vector from the polar plateau with uncanny assurance. Unlike storm-lost wanderers who spiraled into delirium, this entity advanced as if attuned to invisible currents. Word summoned a cadre of men to Harlan's depot, witnessing an approach that mocked survival's limits. Upright against gales that felled antennae, cadence deliberate as ritual procession. Elias Crow presented at the outpost's threshold, apparition incarnate. His attire evoked alien craft, an overmantle of seamless membrane, repelling hoarfrost like disdain, under layers of fibrous weave, iridescent under lantern glare. Footgear left imprints anomalous, elongated depressions etched with radial grooves, as if engineered for gripping abyssal fissures, defying known manufacture. Medic Harlan scrutinized him, marveling at absence of cryogenic trauma despite professed Ian's adrift in the white void. Limbs unmarred, coordination pristine, enunciation crisp. Crow towered lean, over 6 feet, with ashen locks threaded prematurely, age indeterminate yet etched with primordial wear. Physique bespoke relentless traversal, sinews honed by burdens unseen, stride evoking pursuit shadow. Visage angular, etched by winds primordial, epidermis taut without depletion's pallor. Eyes, arctic voids, nearly translucent, appraising with a calculus that evoked dissection rather than dialogue. Youth regarded him with morbid allure, adults with primal recoil, sensing an inventory of vulnerabilities. Domiciles mapped, kin dynamics cataloged, hierarchies dissected. Speech flowed in unplaced dialect. English flawless, yet laced with cadences archaic, vocabulary arcane, evoking tomes forbidden. His narrative, when extracted, wove unease, origins in submerged enclaves where light refracts through eternal ice, communities attuned to abyssal pulses, embracing exigencies that civilized psyche shun. Probed for cartographic anchors, he alluded to kin in abyssal folds, where antiquity's edicts govern the discerning. He evoked societies synchronized with privation's cadence, where persistence demands communion with nature's inexorabilities, sanctioning severities as sacraments. Adolescents clustered for his parables of submerged dominions and esoteric mores. Elders sensed peril in his scrutiny, eyes piercing as if unmasking latent hungers. Crow's paramount disquiet stemmed from his rucksack, inseparable, crafted from that impermeable integument, harboring what he termed essences of perpetuity. Initially, amid desperation, Eldridge Point embraced this as providence. Hindsight revealed the snare. That inaugural eve, ensconced by lodge hearth with Lena's brood surrogate, Crow manifested prowess that ensnared the outpost. When Nadia Kovalenko convulsed with respiratory spasms, Medic Harlan diagnosing incipient pneumonia amid ventilation failures, Crow auscultated, proclaiming affliction from stagnant exhalations in sealed confines. From his repository emerged a phial of viscous elixir, redolent of brine and primal decay, directing 3 measures diluted in heated saline. Within hours, Nadia's paroxysms abated. Dawn brought unlabored breath. Tidings propagated, queuing afflicted before the lodge by dusk, beseeching alleviation from winter's plagues. Swiftly, Crow ascended as auxiliary healer, methodologies eclipsing Harlan's orthodoxy. Skepticism yielded to awe at diagnostic acuity, unearthing flora beneath drifts, curatives efficacious to the uncanny. For Ivan's frost-nipped extremities, Crow brewed an infusion from desiccated filaments blended with what he termed essence of resilient fauna, per ancestral decrees. Preparation spanned hours, emitting vapors cloying, evocative of thawed detritus unearthed post-thaw. Lena, culinary adept, discerned no familiar notes. Inquiries met enigmatic nods to generational arcana in abyssal preservation. The remedy prevailed. Ivan mended in days, though plagued by visions of submerged chasms where luminous entities beckoned with offerings of warmth for allegiance in their submerged repast. Mira Kovalenko, overwhelmed by gratitude, quartered Crow in their larder-adjacent alcove, overriding Victor's qualms. It was Mira who chronicled Crow's idiosyncrasies in unsent missives to kin in Anchorage, later pivotal in probes. Crow slumbered sporadically, rousing to vigil at pains, gazing into auroral voids with trance-like fixation. He ventured into tempests, professing quests for remedial substrates, feats defying lethality, returning unscathed, laden with anomalies, verdant shoots in hibernation, and most enigmatically, fresh protein. While trappers lamented barren trails, sustaining on desiccates, Crow proffered what he dubbed pelagic yields or tundra quarry, sectioned with precision alien to local butchers. Flesh, hues mismatched indigenous fauna, textures aberrant. Harlan, anatomically versed, detected resemblances to primate musculature in medicinal admixtures. Confronted, Crow demurred with mirth. Comprehend, healer, that in abyssal straits, one discards civility's delicacies. Sustenance is uniform in essence, vitality distilled, irrespective of vessel. Sanctity lies in invocation during ingestion. Victor unearthed Crow polishing a brass compass, intoning a dirge-like melody evocative of abyssal laments. Querying provenance, Crow intoned, token of a companion lost to depths, whose essence endures in transit. Yet Victor recalled identical artifact on driller Elias Thorne. No, the cleric's vanished aid, lost en route from Barrow last autumn, amid untraceable squalls. The compass bore unique engravings of celestial alignments, admired in lodge gatherings. Crow's quarters emanated nocturnal anomalies, faint abrasions as of precision implements, interspersed with subdued emanations resembling suppressed pleas. Patterns bespoke intent, not entropy. Victor's inquiry elicited, charting returns to origins post-thaw, archiving enlightenments from your fold. Exhibited parchments, treated membranes, inscribed with glyphs incomprehensible, delineating glacial labyrinths, thermal anomalies, migration vectors transcending visible topography. Charts implied surveillance. Every crevasse, every refuge, annotated with inscrutable tallies, numerals implying enumerations of entities or essences. Harlan, suspicions coalescing, cataloged Crow's patience. Initial ameliorations universal, yet behavioral metamorphoses insidious. Cravings for visceral sustenance intensified, aggression amplified, territoriality beyond rationing's rationale. Psychic alterations profound. Recurrent somnia of submerged expanses where spectral hosts proffered sustenance for immersion in their timeless banquet. Uniformity across subjects hinted at orchestrated imprinting, perhaps via elixir constituents modulating cognition. Harlan's epiphany, microscopic scrutiny of a crow powder, alleged from ossified substrates, unveiled fibrous remnants, and osseous shards humanesque. Confrontation elicited Crow's equanimity. Astute, healer. I anticipated discernment here. Affirmative. Premier curatives harness life's apex source, humanity itself. Ritualized per venerable lineages, such integrations forge unions surpassing your ritualistic bonds. Harlan recoiled as Crow elaborated. Abyssal wisdom teaches the form's totality, men's kin forms. This sacrament binds participants in unbreakable continuum, eclipsing superficial devotions. Revelation cascaded. Crow disseminated human derivatives as panacea, engineering psychic acclimation to transgression's embrace. Somnia, shifts, yearnings, machinations eroding inhibitions, priming for taboos normalization. As January yielded to February's deeper chill, Eldridge Point's tapestry darkened intricately. Crow's therapeutic triumphs persisted, yet anomalies proliferated. Harlan intensified scrutiny, blending curiosity with dread, dissecting how benevolence veiled subversion. Crow's arsenal harbored apparatuses alien. Lancets arced for excision over incision. Serrations optimized for skeletal partition. Vessels emanating sense defying pharmacopoeia. Entreaties for analysis met deflections. Arcana familial, potency diluted sans initiation. Revelation dawned via Nadia Kovalenko, retracing Ivan's path to a glacial fissure masked by drifts, mistaking it for faunal lair. Exploration unveiled engineered vault. Membranes insulating, repositories methodical. Unwrapped, garments manifold. Overalls, frocks, juvenile wraps, meticulously archived, yet lacerated as if stripped forcibly, blotched with coagulated residues. Attire spanned eras, origins eclectic, implying protracted accrual. Artifacts personal, chronometers, adornments, totems infantile, devotional relics, evoking unwilling relinquishment. Sketches preserved, corporeal schematics oriented toward harvest over therapy, delineating severance loci for yield maximization, cryogenic conservation, consumptive modalities. Fauna diagrams intermingled, yet humanoid parallels equated forms as interchangeable provender. Precision bespoke empirical refinement. Nadia alerted Mira, who corroborated, unearthing a ledger in Crow's script, chronicling ventures spanning 5 annals. Abyssal forays, intercepts with nomads, kin clusters. Entries clinical, predation methodologies, approaching under AIDS veneer, sequestering in voids for untraceable dispatch. A passage from 2 years prior, quartet on route to Fairbanks, lured a shortcut amid gale, processed as procedural annotation. Not plunder, but sustenance systematized, human substrate extolled as optimal, with preservation esoterica. Psychic sequelae detailed, ingestions gradient, adulterated initially, escalating to unadulterated, fostering pliancy, complicity. Ledger evinced prior enclaves conditioned, transmuting denizens to adjuncts in his continuum. Mira discerned Eldridge Point's mirroring. Crow engineered a cannibalistic cadre, primed for perpetuation. Burdened, Mira confided in Harlan, whose apprehensions crystallized. Duo probed. Harlan interrogated origins, soliciting validations. Crow evaded with esoteric veils. Proposals for dissemination, journals, peers elicited agitation. Uninitiated exposure profanes efficacy, invites calamity. Mira canvassed regional vanishings via radio fragments. Patterns emergent. Nomads evaporated in winters, hunts aborted, isolates effaced, clustered in blizzards obscuring inquiry. Trail retrograde 8 annals. Traversing Alaska, Yukon, correlating with beneficent interlopers amid crises. In Barrow 1949, Elias Frost materialized during famine, sustaining multitudes, ere vanishing with kin purportedly relocating. In Nome 1951, Elias Drift proffered sustenance stratagems, departing post-inquiries. Schema invariant, ingress in exigency, rapport via succor, unorthodox indoctrination, conversion or erasure, relocation. Harlan's essays affirmed, elixirs amalgamated multi-source tissues, laced with neuroactives inducing dependency, eroding ethos. Confrontation yielded Crow's candor. Survival's imperatives blurred delineations, healer. Forms nourish forms with resolve. Your taboos, affluences of the sated. In voids, such hesitance dooms. Harlan perceived Crow as apex conditioner, honing predation via erudition, forging collectives adherent to devolution's mandate. Eldridge Point accelerated, protein obsessions raw, infantile diversions feral, hoarding mementos predatory. Outsider scrutiny evoked evaluative hunger. Nadia's relapse, voracious for viscera, somnia of abyssal host proffering old feasts. Mira intercepted her devouring uncooked rations, feral snarl, eyes mirroring Crow's gleam. Guide imparts, consume depth's gifts, eschew waste from biped or quadruped. Mastery banishes famine eternally. Victor beheld Crow in larder, dissecting pale mass, indubitably humanoid, tools partitioning with liturgy's grace. Organs arrayed, inscribed. Detection met invitation, timely, fictor. Plogani excel in assimilation, partake in praxis. Elucidation, from wayfarers succumb to elements, resources reclaimed for collective. Nadia's elixir incorporated, hence vitality's surge. Victor's revulsion, humanity ingested. Crow, sublimest vitality, forging transcendent kinships, eclipsing mortality's divides. Crow's zeal, offspring evolve. Victor, impervious to privation specter. World unmasked, potent absorb feeble, profligacy's soul, transgression, demise fuels persistence. Climax unfurled March 12, 1953, bloodiest in outpost annals. Harlan, Mira rallied Thorne, kin, evidence amassed, anomalies rampant, juveniles bloodied, caches osseous. Intent, apprehend discreetly. Yet Crow anticipated, Kovalenko domicile, transmuted to sanctum profane. Illumination erratic, cadence subterranean, intonations sinking vital rhythms. Victor greeted altered, gaze voracious, motility lupin. Mira stained, serene in derangement. Elias instructs endurance's verities, Victor intoned, mimicking Crow's timbre, communal bindings in nadir, sustenance's sanctity. Harlan breached, interior alterized, furniture orbital around laden slab, denizens encircling, Kovalenko's, adjuncts expressions ravenous. Central, Crow presiding disarticulated form, human, arrayed feast-like. Healer, Crow, opportune for Nadia's culmination. Comprehension demands enactment. Exposition, vanished nourished efficient. Contribution to perpetuity. Harlan, narcotized, molded to embrace. Crow, truth suppressed, potent sustain via feeble, sacrifice fellowship's core. Thorn, profanation, bestialization. Crow, behold vitality, progeny fortified, kin cohesive beyond celestial illusions. Bestowed resilience over precepts vacuous. Melee erupted, adherence coordinated, primal. Kovalenko's assaulted, progeny agile ferals. Harlan fled scarred, disseminating alarm. Others engulfed. Siege ensued 4 nights, fortified, adherence drilled, morale eroded by kin's transmutation. Dawn forth, void, Crow, cadre evaporated into glacial expanse, provisions ported. Eldridge Point fractured, converts sporadic returns, vacant, emigrating anon. Harlan chroniqueur, archive sealed, conditioning es blueprint, morale érosion es mécanique. Thaw unveiled depots, remains, artifacts, network implied, Crow operative in cataclysmic preparedness cadre. Journals. Experimental continuum. Ingress, succor, indoctrination, boundary dissolution, conversion or purge. Vision. Enclaves interlinked, ethos disseminated. Crow evaded capture, sightings persisted. Yukon 1956, stranger amid famine. Siberia fringes 1959, pale-eyed guide. Harlan's terminal caveat. Crow illuminated latent voids, conditions suffice, techniques patient, unthinkable normalized as imperative. Not fabrication, but unveiling dormant capacities. Echoes resonant. Wars, calamities affirm fragility. Psychology validates methodologies. Dependency, isolation, incremental transgression. Horror systemic. Instincts exploited, needs weaponized. Civilization's veneer ephemeral. Healer-corruptor dichotomy illusory when persistence reigns supreme. Queries linger. Crow's genesis. Network's persistence in remotest voids? Unresolved, the abyss beckons eternally.